principles, and the reason this is a slide is that you will be able to get to this through the website that we created. So I'm saving paper. But you don't have to sit here and read them, but I want you to know about them. And if you have one book that you want to have in your collection, this is the one it should be. It's Interpreting Our Heritage by Freeman Tilden. And I love the note. I lent this to a guide at Hillwood, and he left me a note inside, and I'd forgotten. And the note is, Mary, thank you. Yes, Freeman Tilden is God. Interpreting Our Heritage by Freeman Tilden. And you'll be able to get to this rod some magical way at the end so you can download the 6 principles. But the principle that I really want to call to your attention is that information is not interpretation. Interpretation builds on information, but information is not interpretation. Burying your guests on a tour with more information than they can process is not an interpretive practice. It is not storytelling. It is actually burial by words, right? As a museum interpreter, as a museum frontline staff, your job is to translate, hence the title, is to translate the museum's story to the public. You are the conveyor of the museum's interpretation. And quite frankly, you are the museum. 90% of the visitors to London Town, to Historic Annapolis Foundation, to Hillwood Museum, to fill in the blank, will never meet Mark Thompson, the director, the assistant director for market. Those people don't exist. You, as a guide at wherever you are the museum for that set of visitors. And it's a big responsibility for you to tell the story of that institution to those visitors in the best way that you can manage. And as you think about your job as a docent or an interpreter for visitors, it's important that you think about your purpose. Remember that sheet of paper? Think about your purpose as a guide. Think about the purpose of your visitors. Because this morning I didn't talk about only my purposes today. I wanted you to think about your purposes today. And I think as we engage our visitors, if we discover what they're about, if we discover what they're curious about, we can better tell our stories to them. And perhaps I should say it this way, our stories to them will be better received because we understand what they're about. One more comment I want to make, but I also want to stop because I feel as though you have been a very attentive audience. But I want to stop and take questions. But I also have one more kind of closing comment. So let me stop. Are there elements of what I've talked about this morning that you go, I don't get it. What do you mean? I don't agree. This hasn't helped me better work with visitors when they walk into my site. What's happening in your head? and look at your slip of paper. Are we moving towards the purposes that you had as you sat there? Dale?
This is shameless promotion for the talk later.
Oh, you want that? Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Suspense. It's a good interpretive.
Building towards it.
Oh, I love technology.
You never turned off that sword.
That's true.
Well, as I said, take note of the very first principle of interpretation about how your, and you can go ahead and read it.
Any interpretation that does not somehow relate what is being displayed or described to something within the personality or experience of the visitor will be sterile, as in dead. All right, shameless promotion.
No, that's, I think it's relevant what you're talking about and what we're
Absolutely.
talking about later.
Absolutely, absolutely. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
What would be your advice on telling the story of a site without inundating them with tons of facts and dates and history? Because wouldn't that include the story of the site, knowing who's owned
Absolutely.
and dates and all of that?
Absolutely, but one of the things I'm really excited about is the personal interaction between you and your visitor. And I don't know if I was overt enough about this morning, but I spoke almost to everyone as you came in. And I did that on purpose. So I wanted you to know that I was a person. You know, and I gave you a piece of paper, I maybe made a joke, you know, I connected. And what's really interesting about the research, which Dale will talk about, shameless promotion number 2 later today, is that attention that you pay to your visitors as they're gathering around you. Where'd you come from? Have you been here before? Perhaps, are there any particular interests that you have? I noticed that you're from Pennsylvania. Are you interested in the Civil War? In other words, engaging visitors in personal interactions that allow you to and it's really hard because you're listening on 2 levels. You're trying to be friendly and open and establish rapport with them, but you're also trying to hear them say, we're here because my cousin is getting married at 4 o'clock today, and we needed to fill the time. So we're here on the fast track. All right, so you're hearing that as you're being smiley and friendly to those people, and what you're doing there is going, okay, these guys have 40 minutes, they're probably here as much just to get away from the chaos of home and wedding preparations. So I'm going to give them a very light touch at things, but I'm listening to what they perhaps are chatting with each other about as you move from one spot to another. And you hear one visitor say to the other, that's just like Sturbridge Village. So these guys have been to an outdoor history museum. They're familiar with the 19th century practices. So maybe talking about crafts you become a spy. You're paying attention to what those people are saying. I am here to challenge you to do this, recognizing, guys, it's hard. And I used to do walking tours in downtown Alexandria for mom and dad and 3 rowdy kids, and by the end I wanted to kill the kids. But I had one of my tricks, and it really was a trick because I didn't drink that much coffee, was I always had a coffee cup. What is it about a coffee cup and a docent or a guide that humanizes them immediately. But think about how you let people know that you're here as a team, because let's face it, a good tour has two-way communication. It's not just information recitation.
I just wanted to amplify something that Mary said too. She was talking about your frontline docents and interpreters as being the face of your organization. And I'm wearing my tourism hat now, but oftentimes it is that docent who's met the visitor and delivered whatever the program is or toured to the visitor that is in fact the face of your community, of your town. Whether those visitors decide they're going to linger a little longer over lunch and take them a little shopping, and then also refer their friends and family to come back again, not only to the specific museum visit, but just to enjoy the place where you are a part of that community. I mean, never underestimate how important a docent is, not only to your organization, but to the well-being of your entire community. Let me put that plug in.
Yes, ma'am.
But I think the challenge, you've overlooked one thing, the challenge really is to, and I work in a small historic house, not that small, but we have relatively small groups under 20. The challenge is accommodating the three unruly,
Absolutely, the mixed group.
and the people who are sincerely interested in the decorative arts.
And I am here to tell you, I've said it once and I'll say it 4 more times, it's not easy. And let's face it, we all can remember the fabulous tour we had and the terrible one. And the terrible one buried us with information. But you're about to have fabulous experiences with some real techniques for working with that situation.
Yes, so in response to your query or concern, which is legitimate, we do have some workshops planned that are all about working with mixed age groups, family groups, so on and so forth. Pete gets the last query because we have some other fantastic folks that are going to bring the skills.
There are 5 processes here. Nothing is mentioned about cost. There's absolutely prohibitive cost of doing something. Am I in the right place here? Will that come way before this would be considered?